Hello again, welcome to the Anita Show and the Bitcoin for Fairness series. This time it comes from South Africa. I'm here and I met with Ricki Allardice yesterday. He's the co-founder of Bitvice, a Bitcoin brokerage based in Cape Town. We're talking about the state of adoption of Bitcoin in South Africa and in the Southern African region, as well as self-custody, about Lightning, and also the situation in the Central African Republic. As always, you can watch this interview on YouTube or you can listen to it in your favorite podcast app. You can also use a Lightning-enabled podcast app like Breeze, Sphinx Chat or the Fountain app and send streaming sats to me, your podcaster. Thanks for supporting Bitcoin for Fairness go out to the Human Rights Foundation, okcoin.com and Leden.io.
Learn Bitcoin will teach you the why and how to use Bitcoin. To safely navigate this financial technology, you'll need the knowledge that this book provides. Jameson Lopp, co-founder and CTO, CASA. Order your copy now at learnbitcoin.link. That's learnbitcoin.link.
Anita Posch, welcome to my house. Good to have you.
Thanks for the invitation, Ricki.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much and welcome to South Africa. I understand you've been here a few days now.
A few days, yeah. A little bit outside of town in Kommetjie.
Kommetjie. It's very nice.
Yes, it's very nice. The weather is cold.
Yes.
But the
water
is cold. The weather is great
yes.
for South Africa at this time.
Yeah.
And we've been enjoying the sea every day for 1 minute.
So you've been doing the Wim Hof with everyone else in Cape Town?
I'm trying a little bit of doing Wim Hof, but yeah, it's more like the mature ladies do it because I've only seen like women sitting in there for 20-25 minutes.
Yeah.
So they really...
It's weird. It became very big in South Africa about a year ago. It took off again, like where it came through waves. But a year ago, it became very popular again. So now everyone in Cape Town is going and sitting in the sea for a few minutes a day.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good, I suppose. Whatever makes people healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm too much of a... It's not for me. I get too cold.
You're too much of a surfer.
Yeah, I like a wetsuit.
Yeah.
But the water's cold enough, that's for sure.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And so tell me, you've been traveling now through Africa for a couple of months. How long have you been on the road for?
It's not a couple of months because I was in between. I was in Miami at Bitcoin 22 at the conference. And I also was in Austria because I left my apartment and I left Austria behind for a little time because I'm a nomad now. Yeah. But in March, I was in Zambia and Zimbabwe. And with Bitcoin for Fairness, and where my goal is to educate as many people as possible, especially in emerging countries or in countries where people are disadvantaged because they live under authoritarian rulers and governments, and to share Bitcoin knowledge there.
You might have to go back to Europe soon.
To share Bitcoin knowledge?
Yeah. With authoritarian governments.
Yeah, exactly. No. I left it also a little bit like in anger. I mean, anger is the wrong word, but I'm disappointed. And I think it's really weird that we in Europe start to be better than China in that regard, you know?
Especially Austria. It's a strange because Austria was like, I mean, I don't mean to bring this up because you're an Austrian, but I love Austria. It's a great place, but it's very sad to see that they were kind of leading that charge and curtailing people's freedoms.
How do you think that Austria is leading here?
So Austria was the first country to mandate fining people for not getting vaccinated, for example.
Oh, that's the topic you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we are an old command and control country. I think we have a very sad history with you know who and things like that. So there's a little bit also of this old thinking, I think, in especially in the rural areas, but I think you have that, in different dimensions everywhere. But to be honest, that's one of the reasons why I left. Not so much because of COVID, because I always this is not a topic I wanted to discuss ever. I don't say it now because of our conversation, but in general, I try to not watch too much TV, or actually no TV and no news anymore, because I get my news where I want. The big things I'll get to know them anyhow from my friends and stuff.
There's a lot to learn from that. Hey, you can manage your mental health very well by just cutting out mainstream news, and you can be a lot more at peace when you're not listening to the fear porn every day.
Absolutely, because it's not of my interest if there is a traffic accident or a plane accident somewhere, it doesn't change my life.
Yeah.
There are other more important things to learn.
Like teaching people about Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I spent some time in Austria, in Innsbruck.
Oh, really?
I was there in summer 2019, and I was just amazed. It's such a beautiful place. Everything works so well, But then again, you walk across the street when the traffic light doesn't tell you can, and then people get angry with you.
Oh, really? But that's also because it was in the Tyrol. They are just even more conservative than people in Vienna.
Yes.
So in Vienna, you can go across the street when the light is red and nobody is looking at you.
And the worst experience was in Munich, actually, where I crossed. There was an old lady standing next to me at the street waiting for the light to go green for the pedestrians, and I looked and there was no cars. So I just walked, as you do in South Africa, She just started shouting at me in German, and obviously I can't speak German, so I didn't know what she was saying, but she wasn't happy. I got her point. She didn't like it, but it's a mindset thing, I suppose, and that is that social conservatism, I suppose, that comes through. Anyway, it's not really on topic with Bitcoin, but so you've been in Zambia and Zimbabwe now in March. What's your experience been with teaching people about Bitcoin?
Yeah, it was not surprising, but worse than I thought, let's say it like that. Because the first question of everybody always was, is Bitcoin not a scam? Yeah. So almost all people know about Bitcoin and have heard about it, but they also can tell you a story about someone who has been scammed. And that's sad, because basically education then needs to start really at the beginning and tell people first thing, Bitcoin is not a scam. But as soon as you explain to them the limit of 21 million, it can't be inflated. The government can take it away from you, especially for Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe. They get the use case very fast and are interested in it. So, and there are a lot of problems, as you know, in Zimbabwe with money. And I don't know how long the Zimbabwe dollar will hold. I mean,
in its current form. I mean, they just reinvent it every few years.
Exactly. They will they will take the money of people again and again and again. So, there are a lot of use cases, but the adoption is very low. So in Zambia, I did a talk, and there were other guys talking also about things, but it was all crypto and blockchain. And there was even a guy talking about Axie Infinity. And so it's really sad to see how people get scammed, and because of the fact that they are in need of money, because they are very poor. They also have very low financial literacy, I would say, even lower than in European countries, because I also didn't know how money is made, actually, not made, but how money is created. The fiat system, I wasn't aware of the fact how euros are created. So, but the educational level of the people there is much lower than that. And so they, of course, they tend to believe scammers who tell them, like, in a year you have doubled your money. And so the great thing is that we were able to set up a WhatsApp group then. So in Zimbabwe and in Zambia, we now have 2 Bitcoin-only WhatsApp groups. And in Zambia, next weekend will be the first Bitcoin-only meetup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Exactly. And I'm very happy about that, because that's what I want to do with Bitcoin for Fairness. Like, sharing knowledge and supporting them in building their own community, because that's what is the most important thing. And also in Zimbabwe, we've got the WhatsApp group now, and I will go back to Zimbabwe in June. And we even got some aspirational miners there. So I know that the first S9 miners are being sent to Zimbabwe at the moment.
Really?
And I'm looking forward to visit the site and bring like a report from there.
That's very interesting, because Zimbabwe, obviously off-grid energy production in Zimbabwe is going to be the only way they can electrify the country again. You can't have a centralized electric system rebuilt because there's no money for it, and no one's giving them loans anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, CESA is completely unreliable. So if you have load shedding whenever they feel like.
Yeah.
And so also I was visiting Nimbe Fresh. Don't know if you heard of the project. It's a big farm, and they did with the Sun Exchange actually from Cape Town. They did a crowdfunding where you could buy solar cells with Bitcoin.
Yes.
And I visited the site, and then now they are completely independent from CESA, and they showed us also the quality of the product, like the tobacco.
Yeah.
Now with the continually having power, the product has much more higher quality than before. And so I think, yes, there are a lot of farmers who already have their own solar power panels. And interestingly, exactly the guys who want to start mining there, they have already a solar power because they need it for their farms.
Yes. And so this is where it becomes very interesting, because you can't rely on the grid. So it will be all these off-grid disconnected systems that start bringing Bitcoin mining in to increase their profitability and consume energy when something else is not consuming energy.
Exactly.
So Bitcoin mining will be a way for them to monetize their surplus energy because you can't sell it back into the grid because the government doesn't have the system to purchase power back from you.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is very exciting for big farmers like Nimbe Fresh, who are
with Nimbe Fresh, it's not Nimbe Fresh, but it's just an idea. So
but I mean, if you're a big farmer like that and you're operating at the, let's say, 100 kilowatt level of power production, you can collect quite a few S9s in there. And
that's right. I mean, we're starting with a much smaller scale, and it's basically to have a proof of concept and maybe to grow it from there. But I think I'm not so experienced with mining, to be honest. I'm keen on learning always, of course. But experienced miners told me already that it's not so easy to just mine with solar power because you need the batteries and all the things. And so the question is really a question of how much money do you have to put in to get how much out. But as you say, when they can get a hand at second-hand miners and they have excess energy, then they can do it. I mean, then it's maybe just 20 or 30 USD a day, but for a Zimbabwean, that's basically what some people there earn a month.
I think the way to approach it would be to look at it as a way to offset the losses you would make in electricity anyway. You're claiming back some of your electricity losses, because if you didn't have Bitcoin mining, that would just go, you'd have to vent that power into the ground or wherever. So it's a way for them to recoup some of their costs and increase the overall profitability of their entire operation. Because if you're just mining Bitcoin and solar, you are only going to be mining for a few hours a day, because those farms that are using solar are consuming most of the energy they produce during the day. So it'll only be like after 5 o'clock in the afternoon and maybe before 7 a.m. in the morning, where you're getting a large amount of energy and you're not consuming it, and then the Bitcoin miners can come on. You can kind of load balance, but it'll take a bit of, I think a pilot is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out there. The other interesting thing about Zimbabwe is there was one exchange a while back called Golix.
Yes.
And the owner, or the founder of Golix, allegedly lost the private key to the hardware wallet where all the Bitcoin was stored on, allegedly. I don't believe it, but he had one hardware wallet, and that's where everyone's funds were stored on. And that went missing, surprise, surprise. So I don't know if there's still an exchange in Zimbabwe. I think they've been shut down. So the problem is liquidity. Like, how do you get Bitcoin into that system? It has to come from remittances and from outside. From outside in.
Exactly. So the Golix was shut down, I think, in 2017 or 2018. Before that, they even had a Bitcoin ATM in Harare where you could exchange US dollars and back. But they were shut down in 2017. I don't know exactly the background, but the central bank, I think, or the government told them, shut it down, because that was the time where there were a lot of scams and a lot of people went to the central bank and said, I lost my Bitcoin. In a scam. But then therefore they took this exactly as an excuse to shut everything down, because the Zimbabwean government even said publicly, we want to keep Bitcoin offshore. I mean, I don't know how they want to do that, but you can try. So,
Bitcoin is always offshore. It's very sure.
Exactly. So the thing with the government, so on the one hand, they don't want it. And now I met guys, Zimbabweans, who live also in Zimbabwe, who started a new exchange, but they registered it in Botswana.
Okay.
And they will allow Zimbabweans to exchange Bitcoin, because Zimbabweans, whenever they use an international exchange, as soon as they put in their address, they are kicked out. Because they are sanctioned. And so there are some exchanges, I think, that work for them still. And coming back to the guys who have this exchange now registered in Botswana, they told me, actually, we really tried in Zimbabwe. We were talking with people from the government about regulation and if it's possible to have an exchange here. But the first thing they asked us was for a kickback.
Of course.
So that's how the system works there.
From my personal opinion in working in this stuff and being Bitcoin only and having our own exchange or OTC desk, the less you involve the government, the better.
Yeah, of course.
My perspective.
I'm also same. That's my opinion. That's what I always say to people. Please exchange Bitcoin peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
So in Zimbabwe, what's happening is, people get money from working online for companies abroad or through remittances.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the Bitcoin and the US dollars on the market in Zimbabwe is also from really washing money in a way, to be honest. But still, there is liquidity. So if you receive Bitcoin in Zimbabwe and you know the right groups, the right WhatsApp groups, you get to know a trader or a person that will help you. It's a little bit like if you go to a meetup in South Africa, I guess you can meet a person and they will exchange money. So, and that is not a problem. So there's always Bitcoin USD liquidity.
Okay, interesting.
But only peer-to-peer.
Yes.
And I always say,
you want it though.
That's what you want. That's exactly my point of view, how Bitcoin should grow, which is sustainable adoption.
Yes.
I think only grassroots adoption is sustainable adoption. And we see that also in El Salvador.
Yeah.
From that point of view, that's why I hope to, with I was in Zimbabwe already in March 2020, February 2020, and did my first talk there about Bitcoin. So when I came back, we had the second one. And so more people came. And it was great because a guy from Bulawayo, he had to drive 6 hours by bus, but he wanted to come because he thought he's the only Bitcoiner. Yes. And now we found out there are 3 or 4 of them in Bulawayo now. Yes. And that's I think the great thing, to be like Bitcoin for Fairness, to be like a catalyst for people to meet the first time and then take it from there.
I can't believe he drove. I actually watched that interview, but I can't believe he drove from Bulawayo to Harare. That's a long drive.
In the bus,
It's a very long drive.
Yeah.
It's like 6
and then
hours.
he stayed 2 days or so because then we did the interview and then he drove back.
Yes. He's actually on our Signal group as well.
Yeah.
But it's great to see. It's amazing to see that there's people out there that are doing it. But yeah, peer-to-peer it's the only way to grow it sustainably, because it'll just get shut down otherwise if it becomes too dangerous to the authorities.
Yeah, I guess so. And also you have the privacy implications with KYC.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the hacking risk that happens every single day.
That's the next year.
No, but I mean, not just coins, your KYC information being hacked.
Yeah.
So that happens every single day.
Also,
we saw it happen with BlockFi now. It wasn't even them that got hacked. It was HubSpot that got hacked, their CRM system. And they say, okay, well, sorry, it happened to our CRM provider, but so
it was the marketing data, right? Yeah.
But I mean, it was. I think it was even down to address level.
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, I was in the Ledger hack.
Oh no.
And even I was so silly to ship my hardware wallet back then to my house.
Yeah, as I learned.
So now I left. So you learn like that. Yeah. I mean, I think every Bitcoiner who's in for 5, 6, 7, 8 years has been scammed in one or the other way, or had such a mess.
Ship your hardware devices to your office or to a local post office.
Exactly.
And go pick them up there or something. Just don't have it shipped to your house.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that leaves a chain.
And also always use not your real email address. Set up an email address.
And make use of retailers who delete your information. So, for example, the CoinKite team deletes your information after, I think it's 30 or 90 days. They delete all your information. So they don't have that information on hand anymore. And that's easy for them because they're not selling Bitcoin, so they don't get caught up in the regulations surrounding financial transactions. They're just selling hardware. So they don't have to keep your information. Unfortunately, in South Africa, if you are selling any financial product, Bitcoin isn't regulated yet, but it's going to be regulated in the near future. You have to keep that information for 5 years, that's compliant with the
In
regulation.
Australia, you have to, like, just if you're a business, you have to keep it for 7 years.
Just if any business.
So for instance, I have an online course about Bitcoin, and at the beginning I sold it because I needed to earn some money, of course. And then I stopped doing that because I would have had to keep the customer information for 7 years, and I didn't want to be responsible for that. I mean,
it's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
Especially if you take someone's address, because now they can be subject to physical attack, which is,
Exactly.
it becomes a very big responsibility. Okay, so you've moved on from Zimbabwe and Zambia. Now you're in South Africa. How long are you spending in South Africa? And are you trying to meet the community down here as well?
Yes, exactly. I'm spending like 3.5 weeks here.
Oh, nice.
And so today I'm meeting you, tomorrow someone else to make an interview. And I think there's some sort of small meetup next week.
If there isn't, there will be.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. And I would also, actually, I wanted to ask you, in the last week, I'm here like on the 17th or 18th. I would like to do a small meetup, maybe.
For sure.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
And in between, I'm going to Mossel Bay
nice.
to meet
to
up to Herman. Exactly. I want to see what they have been doing and also support them. Like, I'm bringing a Raspberry Blitz.
Okay.
So
you're lucky you found one.
I found one, but in Germany. I directly from the producer, like Fumo, So I asked them, do you still have one? And he said, yeah. And they sent it to me. And so we set up the node.
Okay.
And I brought some hardware wallets. I hope I can bring them because Trezor is donating some hardware wallets. And we thought it's a good idea, or Herman said it's a good idea, so that the shop owners, like the guys who already accept Lightning as a payment, that we can set up a hardware wallet with them and show them how to self-custody their money.
Absolutely.
And I'm also trying to learn a lot because I'm interested in how they facilitate the payments and especially how the guys then can buy the goods they need. Because I think it's not that easy also here. Exactly. What the problem we have everywhere is that people need local currencies to pay for things. Yeah, for
sure. So what I like most about the Bitcoin Ekasi project and what Herman is doing there is he's not trying to be prescriptive to the community on how they should adopt Bitcoin. He's working with the surf coaches who live in that community, and they are the guys going into the community and trying to figure out how to solve this problem. So it's not South Africa has had Europeans come here for 400 years and try to prescribe their solutions, and the top-down approach doesn't work. So they're doing it the other way around, and they're taking the grassroots approach and seeing what sticks, seeing what works. And I think it's been pretty successful thus far. What they are trying to do is to get the shop owners to come to terms with Bitcoin security, and that your funds won't be stolen. They can't be stolen if you custody it in the right way. Because inflation in South Africa is a big, big problem. It's not as bad as Zimbabwe, obviously, and a lot of other countries. It's not as bad as the US currently. But 7.5% to 10% inflation is standard. 6% inflation is kind of the norm, and that's official. So if you look at the unofficial inflation statistics, you're probably over 10%. So, I mean, when I was growing up, a large can of Coca-Cola when I was in primary school was 2 Rand, and now it's over 10. So that's 5x, and just in 20 years. So these people, the poorest of the poor, experience inflation worse than anyone else does, because they have no assets that go up with inflation. They don't have a stock portfolio. They don't have a house that they can take money out of their access bond, their mortgage to get to leverage that inflation in their favor. They just experience the brunt of it. So Bitcoin as a savings technology in the poorest communities in South Africa is very, very powerful. But you've got to get past that scam factor first, because as you say, everyone has already been scammed. And in the townships, the Bitcoin scams are rife. And it's just because multi-level marketing, add Bitcoin on top. It's like any other multi-level marketing scam. They just add Bitcoin to it now, and now
It's
even
MLM
more,
on steroids.
Yeah, it's even more potent.
Yeah.
So that is a problem. But the team at Bitcoin Akasi are doing very good work because they're educating people in their home language. They're not going there and speaking to them in English. They've got local Xhosa speakers who speak to them in Xhosa, and so it's very powerful. And before they got hardware wallets, they actually got seed plates. So
I saw yesterday the video where they are stamping.
So one of the guys in our local group has made a jig, and he's been distributing them amongst and they've made their way up to Mossel Bay. So you can make your own seed plates on a washer, because if you buy a seed plate online, it's like 1,000 rand. Yeah,
60 USD or 70.
Easy. Yeah. So 2,500 rand for a seed plate. But with this homemade, it's a 3D printed jig that holds it in place and puts the washer in, and then you get the number punches. But to buy it once off costs you about 700 rand, which is 35, 40 euros. But then every 24 words is like 25 rand because you just buy a set of washers. So once you've got that, and that thing can be shared amongst a bunch of people. So for example, the store owner can have one himself, and then he can charge people to come and make their own, for example.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You just charge them for the washers.
As a business.
Yeah, as a business. So then call it 40 rand, for example, to come and make your own. And if it's 12 words, it's even easier. 12 words is the passphrase. It's cheaper, it's easier. And he can sell the washers already pre-numbered, so it's easier. Because I don't know if you've made one of those before, but it takes a long time.
It's
real proof of work. Yeah. It's just banging those letters. So it's but it's real proof of work. You feel good when you've done it. But so they had those before they had hardware wallets, which tells you they're being taught the right way how to do this. So they've got their software wallets on their phone, and then they store their private keys that way. And in the township, your biggest risk, besides theft, is fire or floods, because shacks are not resistant to either of those things. So having something that's indestructible like that is very, very important.
So where do they put it then?
Probably bury it in the ground under their floor, because their floor
I would
soil,
do that.
Right? Yeah. Put it in a coffee can, bury it. And that's your can be your life savings, and for future generations, 50, 100 years.
I wonder, but what I really wonder is if those guys there in the township go out and everybody knows that they are dealing with Bitcoin, isn't that a danger?
That is a danger, very much so. So this is where things like multi-sig are going to become important. So once again, this is where Bitcoin Akasi can play a role. They can have the coordination software on their laptop. They've got a computer with Sparrow running on their computer. And the guys can bring in their hardware wallets. And for example, Bitcoin Akasi, Herman can have one key, and he can hold a key for them. And if they're doing a 2 or 3 multi-sig, then they can have a key on their phone, and they can have a key on their hardware wallet. So they control 2 keys. And you do still run the risk, because if someone knows you hold Bitcoin, they have to get the 2 keys from you, but you could keep those 2 in separate places.
Yes.
For example. So this kind of education, especially for the vendors, is going to become important.
I think then it's even better that adoption is fast, because if everyone has Bitcoin, then you're cannot be singled out anymore.
Yeah. Definitely. But I really think the inflation approach is the big one, because people here know, especially now, prices are going up massively. And so sort of one measure is cooking oil. People use a lot of cooking oil in the township to cook their food, and the price of cooking oil has almost doubled. So they really, you don't have to tell them about inflation.
They feel it.
They know. They know more about inflation than any central bank governor can tell you about inflation. So if you can tell them, listen, this is a inflation-resistant money over 5 years, not over 6 months or 1 year, but over a 5-year term. I think that's the.
And do people here go into the US dollars as much as in Zimbabwe?
Not at all.
Not at all, right? So they don't use this.
Wealthy people do. But not really. They have, so wealthy people have offshore bank accounts, or they have a USD denominated accounts where they store some dollars. But people in the township, no. The South African rand, as far as central banks go, the South African central bank has done a very good job. And I'm not a fan of central banks, but I would say that they've done a better job than 95% of central banks in the world. If you look at our money supply, our M1 money supply has only increased by 140% in the last 10 years. Take Canada, it increased 300% in the last 12 months. So from that angle, and pick a bank, we've printed less money than they have. which is surprising. So there's a lot of fiscal conservatism in the South African Reserve Bank in that sense. But at the end of the day, they're still shitcoiners. They're still going to print money. It's still, eventually, the Reserve Bank will be captured politically and it will become a tool of politics. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah, it's everywhere the same.
So to answer your question, no one in the poor community holds USD. They all hold rands.
And do they also bury it at home? I mean, have it at home? Because do they trust the banks?
No, not at all.
So they are also not banked. So like in Zimbabwe and everywhere else, poor people are not banked.
No, poor people, everyone is banked in South Africa. Very close to everyone. But they don't trust the banks.
Oh, that's...
So you'll see on payday, there will be massive queues outside the banks to withdraw all their money. And that might be a factor of a few things. It might be a factor of they have outstanding debts and they don't want the payday loan sharks who are claiming back debit orders from them to take money out of their bank. So that's why they remove all their cash, because they have debt. It could also be that they don't trust the bank. And it could also be that they want to do most of their transactions in cash, because in the township economy, most people are using cash because to receive a payment costs 3% across a card rail. And when you operating a spaza shop and your gross margin is 7%, to give away 3% to a payment processor is a non-starter. So you end up with only 7% margin. And then if you put your prices up, your consumers are willing to walk 5 kilometers for that 3% difference, to go and pay in cash.
Because they have time, but not
because
money.
They have time. That's exactly it. So everyone is banked. Everyone has a bank account. Our banking infrastructure is extremely advanced. It's very easy to transact in South Africa and send money around. And we're one of the first countries in the world to have real-time settlements between banks. So I can do an instant EFT to you, even though you.
What is an EFT?
Electronic fund transfer. So it's a bank to bank transfer.
Okay.
So instead of using the card rail, so paying via card, I send money from my bank account to yours. So SEPA in the EU and the US, they've got their own system. But so we have real-time payments where you can pay an extra amount. With my bank, it's R7.50 to transfer money to you instantly, and then the money shows up in your account instantly. You don't wait 2 days for it to clear or whatever. Okay. And if you're with the same bank, it's instant. So our banking infrastructure is very advanced. It's relatively safe. It's the issue doesn't sit. It's not, people won't leave the rand because the banking system sucks. On a user experience level, on a system level, they'll leave because the money is losing its value, but the banks will be there all the way to make the system work for them. So I think inflation is going to be the key issue. It's not so much they're unbanked.
And do you have something like mobile money here?
So they tried. So the company that rolled out mobile money in Kenya is Vodacom. Yeah. So Vodacom is a South African company. So they rolled out M-Pesa mobile money in Kenya, and it worked phenomenally well because people are unbanked, etc. They tried it in South Africa, complete failure.
Oh, interesting.
Because the banking infrastructure is good enough that you don't need to rely on sending airtime around to make payments.
Yeah.
So people do still use it, but it's very, very limited and not at all a thing. And I think it's probably discontinued in most regions.
And are people using stable coins here? I'm interested in that because in Zimbabwe, I was asked actually, what's a stable coin? So I wanted to ask them how many of you use it, but the question came back.
Yeah, so we have stable coins. There's a few people building stable coin rands, stable ZARs as they were. The traders make use of stable coins mostly, the crypto traders, the same as all over the world. They make use of USDC or USDT or whatever, one of DAI or whatever stable coin of their choice. But no, there isn't really a large following for a stable coin yet. I could see how it could work, specifically with Taro, for merchants to accept Bitcoin payments and immediately convert it into a stable coin. And especially if the wallet programmatically lets them convert 2% to Bitcoin and give me 98% in fiat.
So it's like an automatical savings account.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's really something that's very much needed here. Because, and then there's the question, I was just discussing it today with the guys from Zimbabwe who want to set up the miners because they have the idea that they don't need the money that they get through mining. They want to give it away for adoption, to other people. But then the question is,
you can't just give money away. You know, people will spend it. It's not sustainable, exactly. And so we were thinking, so what could we do? Like, is there an inbuilt savings account that only gives you the money after 2 years or something like that? But I don't know if this is not too much, you know, like
prescriptive.
Yeah,
possibly. I shy away from anything that tries to tell people how to spend their own money. You know? Just because I used to work in that industry, like we were saying before we started the recording. I used to work in financial services, and the excuse that financial managers always make about their products that lock your money up is they say, oh, but people don't know how to save themselves. So they're thankful to us because we give them this product and it forces them to save. No one's thankful that they're forced to do anything. That's just something they tell themselves to make themselves feel better because your money's locked away for 5 years. So that
they have the money to work with it on their
own, because then they can go do whatever they want. And after 5 years, your returns have been poor. There's no repercussions. They're like, sorry, well, you can move it if you want. You know, it is what it is. The ship has already sailed. So I think a wallet that allows for stable coins and Bitcoin simultaneously, that is non-KYC. And this is the tricky part because stable coins always come with KYC. I don't know enough about Taro yet to know if you could do that in a KYC free manner, because I can hold stable coin without requiring KYC, but it's the on-ramps where it gets regulated, right?
Yeah, I mean, you should look into, I don't know if you've heard about it, but Money on Chain. It's on RSK, the sidechain of Bitcoin, and they have a dollar stable coin, DOC, dollar on chain. I made an interview with Gabriel Kurman about that a few weeks ago. I've never used it, but I think they are trying to make it that people know about it more, because of course Bitcoiners want things built on Bitcoin and not on any other coin.
Yeah, because essentially, if you have stable coins that are regulated, they're going to rug pull you at some point, and it doesn't protect you against inflation.
Exactly, that was the point where I wanted to get to. Maybe you could look at it and see. I'm not sure if they have KYC because they are decentralized. So maybe it works without. I don't know.
It's just the on ramp where you have to buy these dollars, for example. But if they're interchangeable, if I could pay in Bitcoin. Oh, I don't know. I don't even know how to start with this. Yeah. Anyway, I need to speak to an expert about this. But ideally, if you could do it in a no KYC way, that would be ideal. Because identity theft is the real problem here, and KYC, in my opinion, is the crime. Because it is forcing people into the system where you are then giving their information to untrustworthy people to hold for them for a long period of time, which will get stolen.
Exactly, and also we know how ineffective this all work is. This
doesn't stop anything.
No, it doesn't stop anything. So it's a joke. It's like the war against drugs. I mean, people still use and sell drugs.
Drugs won that war.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, just a side note. Like I used to live in America about 15 years ago, and recently seeing footage come out of America of the drug problem, the opioid crisis in America. America never used to look like that. The cities like Detroit and Philadelphia and Baltimore, they were bad, but they weren't just like kilometers of drug addicts just on the streets standing there. So they have this war on drugs, and yet this is the outcome. It's obscene. It's not even like ridiculous. So we can only imagine what's going to happen with their war on money laundering and AML. It's going to be if that's the outcome from the war on drugs, I can only imagine what this is going to be. Well, a digital panopticon, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely that's where we go. And that's why it's so important to educate people on self-custody, right? And that's what you're doing with Bitvice.
Yeah. So my co-founder Brandon and I decided a while back that we saw this gap in the market that for people to get Bitcoin, the best channel to distribute is through financial advisors, because they're speaking to all their customers all the time. And every single time a financial advisor meets this customer about investments, his client says to him, tell me about Bitcoin. And inevitably, the financial advisors all say, don't worry about Bitcoin, it's a scam, because there's no incentive for them to tell their customers about Bitcoin because they don't make any money on it. So we built a system where they can advise their customers on Bitcoin, set them up with their own self-custody address, place orders for their customers, and then the Bitcoin goes directly to the customer's hardware wallet or multi-sig or whatever it's got.
You have financial advisors in this brokerage in a way?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. So we built this whole system, and we were under the impression that, yes, we might be a bit early because Bitcoin regulation is coming, it'll become a financial asset, and advisors will be able to sell it. Turns out that the regulation has not come yet because the South African government is very slow to do anything, which is a good, a good and a bad thing.
Use it now. Build.
So that side of the business hasn't really taken off. We've got a few advisors advising customers, but it's not really allowed, is how it works. So we actually, anyone watching, we have 0 advisors advising customers on Bitcoin. We don't want to get them into trouble. But so that side of the business exists still, and we're ready for that regulation to come, because then we've got the whole infrastructure built. But what happened in the interim was we found that there's a massive retail demand from people who want self-custody, and Bitcoiners already who are into self-custody and just want an exchange they can buy Bitcoin from and have it sent directly to their self-custody. Then with the other services that come with that, like DCA and things like that. So that's been our drive, and we don't hold anyone's Bitcoin at all. I mean, you could technically say we do for a brief period while they send us their money, and then as soon as it reflects, we send them their Bitcoin. So there's that period. So I know some of our, I would say, supporters who point out flaws in our business model will say that to us, because they come from a good place. So yes, we are working on reducing that amount of time we handle the Bitcoin, but by and large, it goes to you, and we don't hold your Bitcoin for any longer than 2 hours, for example. So that we self-custody only, it goes to them, and then we do constant education with our clients who want it. So if, for example, you start with a hot wallet on your phone, then you can come for us, get education, learn how to set up your hardware wallets. And we've got a lot of customers who use multi-sigs now. So we've set up their multi-sigs for them. We've got a Bitcoin will, which is like if you die, so your family can get hold of your Bitcoin. So it's like we take a sharded approach. So you put your, everything works with let's take the single sig hardware wallet as an example. You have a hardware wallet with a passphrase. This is key. So you can keep your seed words in one document, and a second document which goes alongside the document is kept by a trusted partner, by your brother or your father or some family member, They keep the other document which contains your passphrase. So the two have to come together in order to access the funds. So in the one document, you stipulate, here's my seed words, here's the wallets, etc. Everything is held in it, and here's the letter saying, yes, this person can get the Bitcoin and they're duly authorized to act on it. And you need to go and speak to this person to get the other document to bring the two together. And now you have the seed words and the passphrase. So even if you don't have the device, you can still recover the Bitcoin. And then your list of instructions of who it should go to. And then obviously we can also act as an administrator in that process, where both parties might not understand Bitcoin. They can bring the documents to us, and then we administrate and send the Bitcoin where it's got to go. So yeah, we've got a couple of product lines there. We've just launched our packages, which is basically, it's what we've been doing for the last 2 years, last year, but it's a streamlined approach. You can book them online. So you can book a 15-minute consultation session with one of our staff. So if you've got any Bitcoin question, you come speak to us. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what we're doing. We are launching the DCA product pretty soon. And then one of the interesting things we'd love to work on in the future is DCA via Lightning. Because the current problem with dollar cost averaging to self-custody is there's a minimum threshold where below a certain amount it doesn't make sense to send it to you anymore. If you come to me with €1, the on-chain fees are, let's say 10 cents is 10% of the fee. It doesn't make sense to move that amount. So with Lightning, you can get around that. And now with the tools being built by Sovereign, for example, where you can lease liquidity and Lightning channels, it becomes a lot easier, because managing a Lightning node is actually a job.
It's hard work.
It's hard work, yeah. So if you can lease that liquidity from a company that specializes in that, it makes it a lot easier. So the aim would be to have all of our customers open Lightning channels to us, and then they can stack in DCA, and we can do stacks hourly.
Yeah, and they can stack like 50 cents.
Exactly, exactly. Because we've got the banking integration set up where you can link your bank accounts and then make a payment, EFT payment to us. And under a certain amount, we can front the money to you, essentially. So we can provide you the Bitcoin before the money is landed with us. Because it's an EFT, a bank-to-bank transfer, you can't reverse the payment. It was very difficult to reverse the payment. So we know at 99% certainty that the money is going to land with us. So then the user initiates the EFT. Immediately, as soon as we get the success token that the transaction has happened, we can send you the sats to your channel. So you can get that instant gratification of getting your Bitcoin to self-custody immediately via Lightning. And we know that even if something goes horribly wrong on that transaction, and we lose all the money on that transaction, it's limited to under a certain amount, and it's only one user. So the damage is limited. So we just build that into our threat model. But yeah, so these are all the avenues we're looking at.
And when did you start the company?
We started February last year.
And how is adoption going? I mean, how's the user growth? I mean, you don't have to tell real numbers, but just give an example or an estimation of the growth.
So growth has been pretty good. We've been limited by our product offering, which is just straight to self-custody Bitcoin. And we've been limited by a minimum. So we started with 20,000 Rand minimum, which is, what's that, 1,500 euros, roughly. So quite a large minimum order. And then we've scaled that down as we've grown. We've scaled it down to 5,000 Rand. So we've brought it down by quite a bit, but the aim is to bring that all the way down to 500 Rand so that users can buy smaller amounts. So the aim is that you on a weekly basis can stack 500 Rand of Bitcoin to bring you to like 2,000 Rand a month. But that's the aim. So growth has been good. And then we're very positive that when we launch our new product lines, we'll grow more.
But you have to do KYC too, right?
Yes, unfortunately we do.
Yeah.
But I do want it to be known that we do it begrudgingly. We don't want to do it.
Yeah, I know.
It's not, none of us in our company agree with the idea.
Yeah.
And so we do the absolute minimum that is required by law.
Yeah. You don't overfulfill like all the banks do.
No.
Yeah.
And we try our best to delete customer records that are not required by law as well. So our aim is to be as information minimalist as possible. Is where we want to go.
Do you have how many of those do you have, like Bitcoin ATMs in South Africa?
So there's Cape Town has got the most. I think there's 4 in the Cape Town area. And then there's a couple more around the country. There's less than 10 in the country.
Okay, it's not so many.
Not so many. But the thing is, we've got massive exchanges where it's very easy to go and buy Bitcoin. So Luno is one of the biggest in the world. They're in the top 10 in the world now.
Yeah.
They started here in Cape Town, and if you look in the CBD, there's a big building with a Luno sign on the roof in between all the banks. So that's good news to see. It's not their building, but it's a good marketing trick. So the ATM side hasn't been that, the requirement hasn't been there. That being said, the ATMs do very good business.
I can imagine, but it's also like for privacy, because can you buy without ID here?
No.
No. For like very small amounts, you also have to show your ID at the ATM.
ATMs.
ATM.
No. So ATMs are KYC free up to 25,000 Rand.
Okay.
So under 25,000 Rand, you don't have to show KYC information, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
But the fee is very high. So you're looking at about 10%, 6 to 10% on your ATMs, which is quite high. So this is why we advocate people to first off, buy Bitcoin through Bitvice, because it's easy and we send it straight to self-custody. And then we will give you advice if you want to go through coin joins, for example. It's how to make use of coin join implementations. Whirlpool or Join Market or something like that. We're not Wasabi fans, but we would definitely advise people if they want to go the Whirlpool route. Or if you want to be KYC free, we encourage peer-to-peer transactions, and we do them in our own group. So we've got our own Signal group.
So I need Rand and I have Bitcoin. So in the Signal group, I could ask someone.
You will get it if you say.
Or you exchange it afterwards to me.
If you post in that group, I want to sell Bitcoin. Within 30 seconds, you'll have 5 people say, "I'll buy your Bitcoin."
Okay, and what's the price then? What do they take? Or
they'll
is
take
it like
the South African market rate.
So
people won't even give you a margin over spot. They'll just give you spot price.
They want that by Bitcoin.
Yeah, they just want to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And they want
KYC free.
KYC free, and more importantly, they want to help the local Bitcoin community.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I can guarantee you post, and then you'll have people buy your Bitcoin and give you rands very quickly.
Great. Yeah. And you were just talking about coin joining. I'm doing this now with the Sparrow wallet.
Yes.
But
our wallet of choice as well.
Yeah, it's a great wallet.
Built in Cape Town, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. Craig, all South Africans from Cape Town. You should definitely meet him while you're here.
Yes, I didn't know that he's here. Yeah, cool. Because just recently, my friend from Bitcoin Austria, a long-time Bitcoiner, introduced me to the Sparrow wallet because I had problems with my wallets in BTC Pay server with the gap limit. And he showed me how easy it is with the Sparrow wallet to change the gap limit. And then we also started to coin join a little bit. But I have one mix, so it's in the post mix now.
Okay.
But this takes days. there's nothing. It doesn't work. I don't know.
It takes days depending on how much fee you're willing to pay. So if you set it at 1 sat per byte, you're going to be the last one to go into the rounds of mixes.
But the post mix fee, I mean, you can choose the fee once in the first mix.
Yes.
But afterwards, you can't change it anymore.
No, you
because
can't.
You don't pay anything anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
So maybe because I was cheap, it takes so long.
But the thing with Whirlpool is that it's strange. Sometimes you'll wait days, you go and get a single round of mixes. Some days you'll get 4 rounds of mixes going through in a day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't get a single one after the first one.
So the cool thing about Sparrow is to hook it up to your cold storage. So you'll take your sats from a KYC source, put them into your deposit address on Sparrow. They'll mix, and then your post mix goes directly to your cold storage. Yeah. So you can allocate where your cold storage
to
go to.
But then I only have one round, and I think the anonymity set is not very high.
You need 5. You need 5 rounds, yeah.
You need 5 rounds?
I would go minimum 5 rounds. But this is what I'm saying. Like you could you only have 1 round, and then in the next 2 days you can get all of the next 4. Yeah. So it's a case of.
But then you need basically a second computer to leave it running, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it comes with its nuances. Yes, for sure. But this is so I'll put you in contact with Craig and you can set up a meeting with him. But it's sort of built in Cape Town. And we went through many different wallets with Bitvice to figure out one to distribute the sats to our customers. We've tried them all: Blue Wallet, Green Wallets, Exodus, and Sparrow, and we found the Sparrow is by far the best.
Yeah.
Just because one small feature, you can upload a CSV file of addresses and amounts to send to. So if we're distributing to 20 people in one transaction.
Oh, because you upload the addresses and the amount into Sparrow, and Sparrow does the rest.
And say send, and then it sends in one, because you want to send them all in one transaction, right?
Yes.
So you want to send, because then you minimize fees.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can send all those in one transaction.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
And instead of having to type them in manually, you can just upload a CSV. So our system for that group of transactions can generate you a CSV. We then just take that and upload it into Sparrow. So it makes the whole process a lot easier.
Yeah.
So thank you, Craig. You made our life a lot easier.
So you said Bitcoin is not regulated in South Africa. So is there a tax on it?
Currently, it's treated either as income tax or capital gains tax, depending on the duration you've held it for. So the rule of thumb is if you've held it for more than 3 years, it's treated as capital gains tax. If you've held it for less than 3 years, potentially it will be treated as a trade and treated as income tax. So if SARS, the revenue service, sees that you've been trading like a degenerate, you're going to get hit with income tax, which is why we advocate people don't sell your Bitcoin, don't trade for shitcoins, just buy and hold, accumulate. And capital gains tax, you're going to get taxed at 18%, whereas income tax, you're going to tax in your income bracket, and our lowest bracket is 18%.
Okay.
So unless you are making less money than would allow you to buy Bitcoin, it's going to be bad for you to be paying income tax. So those are the two approaches. If you are buying things in Bitcoin, then
but basically it's a trade. I mean, you're paying in South African rand, so you change Bitcoin to rand.
No, but so if you are paying someone directly in Bitcoin, then there's no record. There's no.
Oh, you mean that, that's mean? What you mean?
Yeah. So it's in that sense, it's much easier. So let's say you meet someone, and you want to buy, I don't know, whatever, something from them. You do a peer-to-peer trade for physical goods or whatever. You pay them in Bitcoin. There's no chain to your wallet.
Yeah, the only question is if you bought it at Bitvice, then they know.
No, they don't.
They don't.
So
they could know.
The only way they would know, so Bitvice doesn't do any reporting we don't report by choice to the receiver of revenue. They have to come with a subpoena to subpoena individuals' records. So we're not part of the Financial Intelligence Center sandbox where they share information. You have to come with a subpoena for a specific person to get their history.
That's good.
So we don't provide privacy first. That's our approach. So this is why we say to our customers, have your Bitcoin sent to your Whirlpool deposit address. Whirlpool it because financial privacy is not a crime, because it's
not yet.
It's a safety feature in a country like South Africa, where violent crime is through the roof, where we have 50,000 murders a year. It's massive.
Whoa.
yeah, it's out of control. It's huge. So we live in a very, very dangerous country, and that's hyper localized. Obviously, in certain areas, it's not evenly spread across the country. Some places are much more dangerous than others. I mean, there's some places in South Africa that are as safe as the safest place in Europe, but it just depends where you are. But the point being that if I have all of my sats in a self-custody wallet and I go and pay someone in Bitcoin, that person can check the blockchain and see all of my transactions and see all my sats. And he might see, oh, this guy's got X amount of Bitcoin. I'm going to follow him home and hold him up and steal his Bitcoin. Whereas if you've gone through Whirlpool and you've treated your privacy seriously, you're not going to have that problem. So it's a safety feature. It's not because you're trying to dodge anything. It's because you're protecting yourself and you have a right to financial privacy.
Yeah. And I mean, the easiest step, I think, is to use separate Bitcoin addresses for each transaction. That's where it starts, and don't reuse an address.
Never, ever reuse an address. Yeah. And so this is one of the things we also do is users upload their address. So we encourage people to just, every time you want to make a purchase, just give us another address. The next step would be to get users to give us an XPub, and it can just randomly generate an address as well. That has privacy trade-offs, obviously, but it is better than, using the same address every single time. So there's a couple of product enhancements we're looking at here.
So what are the languages here, the regional languages? English is the official language, right?
No. We have 11 national languages.
Ah, okay. I was just thinking about translating my book.
So we have 11 national languages. English is one of the least widely spoken.
Oh.
Afrikaans is actually the most widely spoken language. And Afrikaans was derived from Dutch, but it is significantly varied now that they two can't really understand each other. I mean, I can read Dutch and understand maybe 30% of what they're saying.
In Afrikaans.
Because I'm fluent in Afrikaans, so I can read Dutch.
Oh, you are fluent in the other
so I can read Dutch, and then because I understand Afrikaans, I can understand it. But so Afrikaans is the most widely spoken by geography. But then if you look at by amounts of people who speak a language, it's probably Zulu or Xhosa.
Because I just wanted to ask, I mean, Afrikaans speakers are white?
No. There are more non-white Afrikaans speakers than white Afrikaans speakers.
I thought it's because it's from the Dutch, then I thought maybe the Afrikaans are the white Africans.
So the Nationalist Party of South Africa that implemented apartheid in the 1940s, 1950s, were Afrikaner nationalists. But Afrikaans has a 400-year history almost, 350-year history in South Africa. And Afrikaans is spoken by what's called the coloured community, which is a race in South Africa predominantly around Cape Town and the Western Cape. They majority Afrikaans speaking as their primary language. There's a much smaller community than that speak English, but Afrikaans is the primary language. There's people who are first language Xhosa, Zulu, Venda, Pedi, whose second language is all Afrikaans, not English, and English is their third language. So this is why Afrikaans is geographically in kilometer wide, is spoken the most in South Africa in terms of width across the country. But I think Zulu or Xhosa would be the number one spoken by amount of people. I'm not sure between the two of them.
And your training materials, do you have that in English or in other languages?
English only, unfortunately. But the thing with all Afrikaans people who can afford to spend 5,000 rand to 20,000 rand in Bitcoin understand English. English is a universal language, you know. So it hasn't been a significant hurdle for us yet. But one of the things we'd like to contribute towards is the translation of seminal Bitcoin text. So this is why we support a project called Exonumia, because they're translating Bitcoin text into other languages. So I'd love to see the Bitcoin standard in Afrikaans, for example, and Xhosa and Zulu and all of those languages. We're just lucky that we speak English and the world kind of caters to us, but there's a lot of people don't have it that way, you know. Yeah. It's much easier to learn something technical in your first language than your third.
Of course.
I mean, I'm sure you know this problem. Speaking German and having to read all this stuff in English must be
I mean, one of my first projects was to translate Andreas Antonopoulos' Internet of Money to German.
Okay.
Which I did 2 volumes, and the first, so like in the after site, you know, the first one I did, it was really bad because I'm not a professional translator,
Yes.
you need to be a professional, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's understandable. I think you can understand what is meant and blah. But of course, Andreas Antonopoulos, fine way of saying things is really hard to transport that in another language. And then with all the technical words, terms, there is not even a word in German.
What's the word for blockchain in German?
Yeah, I mean Blockkette, but nobody would say that.
Yeah, exactly. Same in Afrikaans. You say Blockkettung, but no one would say that. So it kind of gets anglicized, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of scope in South Africa, and this is something we just wanted to touch on, is just how many people are into Bitcoin in South Africa. South Africa is consistently in the top 5 by Google search trends for the last 10 years for the term Bitcoin, search term Bitcoin. And that's because South Africans love to be scammed. So they probably always searching some Bitcoin scam, but it's us, Nigeria, and
Kenya.
Kenya is another big one. Australia is pretty big as well, I think.
You mean?
Yeah, but globally, I mean, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa are always in the top 5 searching for Bitcoin. So everyone's heard about it. Everyone knows about it. Not everyone knows about it that much, but it became very popular in 2017.
Yeah.
And that's when everyone kind of heard about it for the first, the normies heard about it for the first time,
Me too. No, not for the first time, but that was the time when I got into it. Yeah.
And then now, fast forward 2022, that's in the news again. And now they're like, well, I still don't have any Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get some, because when I heard about it then, it went to 20,000. Then I heard it crash. I thought it was dead. And now it's like 60. And the thing is, you convert it into Rand terms. We hit R1 million in South African rands, the Bitcoin.
That's another level where it's in the news.
Big marker when it hit
1 million rand. Okay.
It was just, I think it was just shy of 1 million. On some exchanges it might have gone over, but it was like 999,000 something. So that R1 million is a big psychological level where it's in the news.
Is there a number of accounts on exchanges in South Africa? Because I mean, you can't really count Bitcoin addresses or something. This is silly, because you can't say it's one person. So I mean, there are still enough people who do that. but I mean, by the number of exchange accounts, we know it's about 100 million or something worldwide.
So South Africa is a tricky one now, because Luno has operations in Nigeria, they have operations in Malaysia, Singapore, the UK. So the Luno total customer base now, I think, is 7 million. But I don't know how much of that is South African. I think, according to the SA Reserve Bank, as of 2019 or 2020, there was a total of 2 million people who held cryptocurrency in South Africa.
And how many people live in South Africa?
Call it 60 million.
60?
Yeah.
Well, it's almost as much as Germany. I think they have 70 or 80. Yeah.
So it's our population in the UK is very much the same.
Okay.
So 2 million people in a population which isn't as financially mobile as the UK. I mean, I don't know how many people hold Bitcoin in the UK, but 2 million is a good number, and it's gotten there, let's say 2 million in 10 years. 10 years from now, it's not going to be 4 million. It's going to be, it's going to be 40 million.
I think so too. I would say 20 or whatever.
Yeah. So adoption is high, and it's obviously because numbers go up, so people are excited about that. But it's got this, I think the staying power now is what's attracting people. The interest is they're like, well, it's still here. And those who've held through the entire cycle.
The Lindy effect, right?
Yeah, exactly. And those guys, they've held through that cycle. They've seen the lows, and if they've kept, and they've seen all their shitcoins go to zero, right? Yeah. Myself included. I was a shitcoiner in 2017. And penance to myself to teach myself not to do that again. I was like, cool, I'm going to just hold those shitcoins and see what happens. And I've seen coins delisted. I've seen coins go to zero. It's a sad state of affairs, but never do that again. But yeah, so those people all speak to their family about it. So now when you're around the Christmas dinner table and your uncle's like, oh, you still doing that Bitcoin thing? And you're like, I am. Have you seen the price?
Exactly.
And more specifically, like in South Africa, you're going to struggle to find anyone who thinks the government is doing a good job. Anyone. Across all political spectrums, everyone thinks the government is useless and incompetent. Even the people who support the current government will tell you that they're useless. And the biggest issue we have here is people look at Zimbabwe, it's a neighboring country, and they say, they're very worried that happens here as well. Very, very worried. So people are buying Bitcoin in self-defense against the government confiscating your money. And the current regime is kleptocratic. They steal money as like it's going. They're very good at one thing, and that's stealing money. And they have been robbing the country blind for the last 30 years. And the
You're speaking of Zimbabwe or South Africa now?
South Africa, but both.
Okay, it's the same basically. Yeah.
Same. And the average South African looks at that, and everyone's got a little bit of money. They say, well, look, if I leave my money in a pension fund, the ANC is going to steal it. Eventually they will. And if I leave it in the bank, they could well just cut me off from my money, which just happened in Canada. And that's waking a lot of people up, especially because there's a group of people in South Africa who feel discriminated against by the current government. And they were seen as the previous beneficiaries of apartheid. And now they are on the receiving end of the government being out to get them. So those people are extremely worried about the government confiscating their assets, devaluing. Expropriation without compensation of land, taking land like that in Zimbabwe is a political topic that is up for discussion, and there was a bill tabled in Parliament, like it's a reality that could happen. So they see the Zimbabweification of South Africa as a...
The Zimbabweification? That's interesting. I never heard that word. That's a new word.
They see that as an imminent threat, and Bitcoin being a life raft for them, which it is. And I think the current situation and what happened in Canada with the trucker protest and what happened with the US confiscating first Afghanistan's sovereign reserves and then Russia's sovereign reserves has made people realize that you cannot trust banks with your money. So that sentiment is only growing. It's not shrinking. And Bitcoin is the only viable solution we have. Because crime is very high in South Africa, so physical gold is also a risk. So normally that group of people would go to physical gold, but you can't have your
gold
keep it? In a vault at home because people with...
And you can't keep it at the bank because they take it again.
Same problem, right? Same problem. So Bitcoin is really the only answer here. And this is something that we've been working on a lot, is to try to promote education within the Afrikaner farmer community about Bitcoin. Because these people, the Afrikaans farming community, are the most Bitcoin oriented people without knowing it yet, in my opinion. They don't know that they're Bitcoiners yet, but because they
fear that their land can be taken, their property.
That's one thing, but they share all of the cultural values that Bitcoiners share as well. So the overlap between these two groups are massive. Things like low time preference, things like emphasis on family values, eating good food, respecting your elders, like all of this kind of stuff that kind of is permeated into Bitcoin culture. These people have been doing it for like centuries already, so they are naturally kind of have an affinity towards Bitcoin. And so that's something we're trying to focus on, is get this community into Bitcoin, because when the South African government collapses under its own weight, because political change will not, I don't think will come. It will have to be something that happens de facto. Those communities that self-organize will be the communities that survive and can thrive. And you have to have capital for that. So if you're relying on the rand as a preservation of your capital, you're going to go down with the ship. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of very interesting things happening here, and I think South Africa is the tip of the spear for the world in terms of applying postmodernist constructs to absolutely everything. So it's we are leading the world in that phase of the decline. So we also have people that are building alternative systems here and are so much more further advanced than anyone else in the world, because they've for 20 years been like, well, this is imminent, let's build. So building their own universities, building their own schools, building their own colleges, their own hospitals becoming soon, their own insurance products, their own food security. It's all happening here.
So many little free cities or something like that.
Something like that.
Not the same concept, but self-organized.
No. The free private cities concept is understood in those communities, and they're propagating those like schools of academic thought. The one part that's missing is Bitcoin, though, for them. And they're very aware of it. They're very aware that if the rand goes down, all their hard work for the last 30 years is undermined. So you will have these like intentional private communities pop up, I believe, by default, because it's the only way to survive, really.
Speaking of Bitcoin, for sovereign individuals and countries. You're a African.
Absolutely.
You're in the south, but we have now the Central African Republic, which is the second country to have Bitcoin as legal tender. What do you know about that? Do you have any information about the background? Because I'm really not sure if it's not a shitcoiner thing there that's happening.
I can't speak with authority on the topic. What I do know about the Central African Republic is that it is extremely war-torn. It's very dry, it's very arid. It shares, a bit of a border with DRC in the south, but it's very much largely desert. A friend of mine who I studied with, actually, we did conservation, and she worked as a conservationist up in Central African Republic on some of the national parks up there. But it's extremely poor. There's a large amount of poaching. It's war-torn. There's rebels all over the place. So it would be interesting to see if they did this out of necessity, which is kind of the Bitcoin game theory playing out. Would be good to see. Or if this was some shitcoiner play by the central bank to try to, I don't know, have another round before the next collapse. I'm not, so I can't speak with authority. I hope that's not the case. I do know the president has a 2 degrees of mathematics, apparently.
Yeah, so. But isn't it also weird that suddenly he has a Twitter account, and in his 19th and 20th tweet, he's a Bitcoin maximalist by the words he's choosing? That's and we never have heard of him.
But the thing is, you're never going to hear about Central African Republic anyway.
That's right. That's right.
And how much do we know about El Salvador before it got Bitcoinized?
Yeah, but there was Bitcoin Beach before.
Yeah, of course.
So they started it, basically.
But Bitcoin Beach didn't just start El Salvador. Bitcoin Beach started. What I'm saying is from the work they've done there and the model they've proved, they inspired the whole world to adopt this model.
But I think that Bukele very definitely came onto it. I don't know. I don't know him. Beach. Maybe he thought about it even before. But Mike Peterson and Bitcoin Beach, and then now the name Strike.
Yes.
Coming to El Salvador, I think that was the initial.
The catalyst.
Yeah, the catalyst, exactly.
So there are some guys in that. This is the source of all knowledge, this signal group of ours. But there's some guys in there who apparently have connections to the royal family in Central African Republic. So, and connections in government. So they will probably be able to speak on the topic a bit more authoritatively than I can. But it's very interesting. I hope it's going this way.
I already heard that some Bitcoiners already form a kind of a delegation and travel group to meet up in Central African
Was
Republic.
It like the same clowns who went to El Salvador, like Brock Pierce and all those shit?
No, not Brock
showed
Pierce.
Up there?
No. It's one of the Bitcoin miners. From France,
Okay.
He's credible.
Okay, that's good.
But I hope he can find something out and maybe teach them a little bit about real Bitcoin.
Yeah, I really hope so, because if any countries need Bitcoin, it's the poorest countries.
Yeah, of course. And those countries with the franc, they still have the franc, the Central African franc or the West African franc, like Senegal. For them, it would really be great to have a neutral form of money that makes them independent. And
this is the thing that a lot of people don't know about, but everyone talks about colonialism, but the French colonial influence in West Africa it's grotesque. Like they've been screwing those countries for decades since they got their independence. But
the others also do. Like the US and China, they are screwing Zimbabwe.
But so South Africa we have an interesting past. We were first a Dutch colony, then a British colony, and then the Dutch beat the British and took it back, and the British beat the Dutch and took it back, and then the Boers and the Brits had the Boer War, and then we effectively after that became a union, and then independence in the 50s. We've got a long history with colonial powers. The Dutch have nothing to do with South Africa anymore, literally nothing. The Brits also are not really that involved on the face of it. Obviously, they're a big trading partner with us. We have all of that going on, but they largely the mistakes of South Africa over the last 30 years, and this is not being an apologist for what was happening before. That was horrific. We had an opportunity to remake South Africa and be something phenomenal. Where we are now is we only have ourselves to blame. We can't blame external influence, And people will make that claim because they want to defer responsibility, but at the end of the day, it's we've got ourselves to blame for it, sadly.
So let's end with something optimistic.
Well, I'm extremely optimistic. In South Africa, the common trend with people in my kind of friendship group is to leave South Africa, to immigrate, to go to Australia, to go to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK. Those options are all terrible now. So I was very much in the mindset that South Africa is falling apart. I need to leave and go somewhere else. What COVID has showed me is that the world is falling apart. We have a lot of freedom in South Africa through incompetence, which is a beautiful thing.
It's the same in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
People are very entrepreneurial. Yeah. They can try or have to try everything they can. But you don't have all the red tape that you have in Austria, for instance, if you just want to open up some kitchen or restaurant or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have a lot of freedom through incompetence, and I do believe we're on the tip of the spear of the collapse and the change to whatever is coming next. And in my opinion, I'd like to see that being the hyper Bitcoinization. Other people see it as being the CBDC and the whole digital panopticon, and that's the choice we have to make, I suppose. So why not do it here? Why leave? Why go and build something else somewhere else?
You're faster in the future, basically.
Yeah, we are in the future. We 15, 20 years ahead of the rest of the world in the collapse. So we have 15, 20 years of experience of how to deal with this. Not like, for example, load shedding. Yeah, the power just goes out. At least they tell us in South Africa it's going to happen. In Zimbabwe, they don't tell you.
Exactly. In Zimbabwe, you never know when there's load shedding. And here they send you a message tomorrow from, 7 to 9:30 in the morning, there's load shedding. There's no power. Okay.
But give them another 10 years, they'll stop telling you, like if it carries on like this. But so the solution to load shedding in South Africa is Bitcoin mining. Because if you can Bitcoin mine, you can incentivize off-grid electricity production. And if you can do that, you can stabilize the grid and form microgrids, and then you can energetically, from an electricity point of perspective, secede from the national grid and form your own microgrids that are using Bitcoin mining for load balancing and to bootstrap your network and financially incentivize your system. Or you always have a buyer of last and first resort, So that becomes very interesting. We have a secession movement growing in the Western Cape, which is the part of South Africa that is degraded the least because we've got a different government down here. I'm excited about the future there. Mostly I'm a freedom maximalist, so I want to go where my freedom is maximized. And looking at New Zealand and Australia, and Canada, terrible options for that. The UK is not so bad. They've, out of the whole COVID thing, I think they handled it poorly, but better than most. The US is interesting because it's such a diverse variety of approaches. But why leave? It's Africa. It's fun. It's exciting. It's beautiful and the weather's great.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you're here because you built something. What's important for Bitcoiners and for people to get their Bitcoin in self-custody immediately.
Yeah, no, that is the important part because the rug is going to be pulled from exchanges. It's just a matter of when. And we'll be lucky because it won't happen at the same time everywhere. So you'll have some advance warning, but it's not going to be a lot. And I don't know how much more advance warning people want already. Then you see the slow rug being pulled all over the world. Just get your Bitcoin off an exchange, get into your self-custody, figure out how to do self-custody. And single sig hardware wallet with a passphrase is probably the best single approach you can take to securing your Bitcoin.
I think you don't even need a passphrase. I mean, it depends on your personal setup, but for many people, you have to store the seed and then also the passphrase and don't lose it.
But the passphrase must be a word you'll never forget.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, but I hear what you're saying. Absolutely. It's another thing to store. And
exactly. It's making it more complex.
Makes it more complex and more complicated. Absolutely. But
we're on we're on the same page.
Yes, yes, for sure. All right, is that it? Is that a wrap? How much we going? How long are we going for?
117 already.
There we go. Okay. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. And we're going to organize a meetup for you to meet all the local Cape Town Bitcoiners. And I will definitely put you in contact with Craig, and you can have a sparrow chat then and hopefully get more rounds of mixing into your project.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. It was great being here, and I enjoyed the conversation and I learned a lot. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It's been great.
That's it. Thanks for joining. If you've enjoyed this show, please subscribe to my newsletter at anita.link/news. A special thank you goes out to the Human Rights Foundation, Leden.io and okcoin.com. See you next time at the Anita Posch Show.